Hey guys, welcome back to Still Color. This is Kevin, and this is my alone review of new Billie Eilish, Happier Than Ever After. And for those that don't know, Billie Eilish, one of probably the biggest, no, she's one of the big pop artists extraordinaire, 19-year-old who had a flying start with her debut album, which the name sort of has gone amiss in my head. Sold extremely well, had big singles and had great songs on it. And I managed to do a first listen of the album, which you could check literally below. It's an album that I liked a very lot, and I was surprised of her maturity and also the production with her and her brother and how well it was for someone that young as well. And with this new second album, is a continuation of that, I would sort of say. The production is good. The length of the album, I believe, is the same length as the first album. And it has this sort of change in sort of sound and also some change in genre in the album, which keeps the album very much spicy and very much alive. A little bit different from the first album that was quite sort of poppy and trap and hip hop throughout, but it's still kept with the same what's it called, ideas in terms of its sonic changes like the first album, and that allows the album to sort of remain sort of fresh in the air, to sort of sound good. Of course, the production is good, and she continues on with the somber, melancholic, and the sad themes of the album. And of course, some of those records are some of the best records and that I liked on the albums. And that's the record like, of course, Your Power, and a very exceptional record. Me and Henry reviewed it on our first listen, talking about, a person who abused another person in a relationship, and if they would have remorse, if they got some sort of remorse, remorse of what they have done. And it's quite an interesting and thoughtful record. And it continues on with Billie Eilish ability to make quite deep and thoughtful record, and not just do the sort of like a poppy, not just be sort of be one way and do poppy records that don't have quite much depth to it. She's able to do records with extreme amount of depth, and that is also with another record like Getting Older. An interesting record about the idea of getting older and how just things seem to just not to be as important and as fun anymore, and that sort of extent, of course, to her work and she not feeling any sort of enthusiasm about it as well. And we've got another record about another record that I quite liked as well, which was about NDA. A record essentially is about fame and the limitations of fame, the specifically that it places on her, and not being able to sort of be the person that you want to be. And those are quite interesting and thoughtful record, but it also follows on what I also like and what I didn't like about this album is the fact that the sort of the emotions and this perspective, the emotion, actually not the perspective. The perspective, of course, has gone some sort of deeper and deeper on that one. But obviously, I like Your Power has similar bearings to another record on her first album as well, and also a record like NDA. She does speak quite a lot of sort of fame on the first album as well, but and also about death on like a record like Everybody Dies. So in terms of the themes, in terms of the emotions, more or less, I think that for me is also a part of what I just didn't like. I just thought there would be maybe a change in emotions, and not to be so somber and sad, and maybe to have a more of an optimistic outlook on things. But maybe one day we'll get that. Or am I just asking too much? Or am I wrong to even ask that? Interesting question. But that kind of follows on with the record, which is, I think, is Oxycontin. And I think the reason why I hate that record, or I think it's one of the most terrible songs on the record, and I think one of her worst songs, in my personal opinion, is just the production. I just don't like the production with this sort of stabbing electro sort of punk vibe. Kind of reminiscent of a little bit like Britney Spears music as well, and also not music, but a specific record that she done. Name goes to miss. And going in, and it's also how some of the records I believe are not so. What can I say? The stakes are not high, or not on all of the records. They're not high. Like I don't feel like I'm quite imbued with the drama of it. And I think maybe that's probably because of getting to understand her sort of first album, if that makes any sense, because this album has shared similar DNA, though it is different in some regards as well. So it doesn't, so maybe the stakes then comes off less, though there is obviously the brilliance in some of the records that sort of still maintain some of the stakes and some of the catchiness as well. I thought the record could be a little bit more catchier, and in terms of just the way it sounds and just better airwork that encapsulated for me is the record. I think Therefore I Am. I don't think necessarily it's a bad record. It kind of reminds me of those 2000s pop records. And for some reason, a bit of Eminem-ish in a way, and not in some regards that keeps popping up in my head. And it's just interesting. It's just playful, but it's a little bit silly, and it just doesn't quite punch at it. And you know, I mean, it's a little bit just off, and I just feel like with a little bit more catchy, a little bit more airworks, and probably just a better different melody could be a much of a better. But than that, I think it's a good album. I think it's a good album. It continues to show for me why I think she easily is one of the most exciting in terms of the artists that are selling and doing really well. She's a top class and top those artists that are able to execute many things within the music and therefore will have a very long career. And in no shadow of doubt, this woman, she will be making probably she got in the locker of her to she got it in her locker to make classics. Like there is no doubt about it. And therefore I'll give this album a 7. I think it's a good album. But it is quite it shares similarities, which is both good and bad. But I felt if the stakes could up a little bit more, just a change in some of the soberness. But if you want to keep the soberness, then at least up a little bit more stakes, cut some of the other less lackadaisical tracks, and just amplify the sense of despair. Then, like, I think, yeah, that's what I was getting at. I think if this record was going to be a fantastic record, then despair needs to be amped up. And maybe so. Overall, guys, what did you lot think about the album? Do you lot think this is a good album, and why do you think this is a good album? What did you lot like about this album? Please comment and subscribe, because it's always interesting to know, of course, what you lot's opinions are. And I'd like to also say thank you for all of you lot who actually, be subscribing and watching some of our contents. We are deeply appreciated, and it just helps the channel to grow. And that's what we want to continue to doing over here, to continue to put out even more interesting content, and and to see where our own creativity of some sort could lead us. So guys, thank you, and keep tuning in. We've got more content coming for you lot. We've got more First Listen, I believe, from Jarvis, and obviously with me. And yeah, guys, thank you all for watching.